week in racing. It's time to recap it. And who better to do it than Michael and Magic? Two bros/pros who cover the highs and lows of racing around the globe on every one of their shows. Real fans look forward to these guys and their last thoughts, cause they know they're not talking out of their royal ascot. What they say makes sense. So ladies and gents, sit back and relax as Blinkers Off presents The Magic Mike Show, where you hear the experts speak. The Magic Mike Show. Tune into the show every week. The Magic Mike Show. You can trust the show is the bomb because it's being brought to you by RacingDudes.com.
What is up, everybody? I'm Magic.
And I'm Mike.
And this is the Magic Mike Show. I am so happy to have my co-host back with me, Mr. Samich. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good. My man. It was a hell of a week up there. Spent 3.5 weeks in New York. It's nice to be back home, sleeping in my own bed finally. So yeah, it was all good. It was an absolute blast. Yeah, I love being at the lake house, love being in Saratoga. But man, yeah, 3.5 weeks is a long time, dude. That is a long time. Let me tell you, it adds up after a while.
I mean, you pretty much spent a month away from home, a month straight, and it's a place where you're familiar. It's a family lake house, but still, like, to be away from what you're comfortable in. It's not like you just went, one town over or something. It's a completely different environment being up in New York. But it sounds like you had a great time overall from when we were checking in on you.
Yeah, I did. Look at you, already with the spoiler on the bottom, giving those tickets away.
Whoops.
I kind of figured you didn't mean to do that, so I thought I'd just call you out real quick.
Meant to hit that one. Hey, all right. So thank you for watching. You don't even need to watch anymore. We gave out the tickets. We'll see you guys next time. Whoops.
The Magic Mike Show, baby. Twice a week. We're always here.
I know. This is so great. Yeah. So we had Sean did a great job.
He did.
Filling in. Sean, between Sean and I, we had the winning ticket at Del Mar, which is a little tricky there. And then boy, I got to tell you, that Luis Mendez horse that knocked me out because I was fully single to Spielberg, but fully believing the hype that he was going to be a monster there. And I caught some grief from the guy who owns the horse too, because I know him pretty well. And he said, you picked him the first 2 times. Why'd you get off? And, well, it's a bad for $1 million horse. Can you blame me? Oh, well.
He didn't win the first 2 times, so.
Exactly. Yeah.
Pretty good reason to get off.
Mendez third time out isn't exactly a hot angle that we like to play in the Magic Mike Show.
Not what we're usually looking for, right?
Well, as you saw, the second time I put the banner up correctly, we are covering the late pick 4 sequence at Saratoga on Saturday. If you're joining us live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, thank you so much for joining us. We're always here Mondays and Thursdays, 2:30 Pacific, 5:30 Eastern. But before we get into things, Mike, what's the best thing you saw this week?
Man, I have like 5 because it's been so long, but I'm gonna go with Travers Saturday. First off, I'm really happy that Sean is here. I made you proud, buddy. There you go. There's some hardware. We took home the tournament with my dad. Pretty excited about that. Shot a 81 in the final round on my own ball to get the job done. So pretty stoked about that.
Wow.
And then we went home and we went back to watch the Travers. And let me tell you, Saturday was kind of a good day. I played a bunch of tournaments before I got on the golf course, won a bunch of qualifiers, got into some major events, and then went 11 for 12 on Travers Day. And that infamous DQ, I would have had top pick on every single stakes race in the guide. And the Samo Bombs would have had a $15.50 pick 5 through that sequence if that horse stays up. So we're hot, but man, it was so close to being incredible there. And then we capped it off with a 10K BCBCC. So Saturday was okay. I was okay with Saturday. So the best thing I saw was Travers Saturday. It was incredible. And then I got to go out and play bags and grill with my family. So kind of all around a great way to spend the day on the course, on the track, and having some good luck there.
Yeah, I'm just glad you found your golf ball, because it's kind of a running joke. It's like, where's Mike? He's looking for his golf ball somewhere. He drove it 300 yards, but he can't find it.
That would have been accurate on Thursday. Let's just the driver was it was a slightly
learning curve.
Slightly right all day.
It was a new one for you, right? Because you told the last time you were on a week ago, you told us about how somebody accidentally ran over it and mangled your beloved driver, so you had to get a new one. And it was a good driver, but it's just like a runner when you get new shoes, you just got to kind of break it in and get a feel for what's happening there.
And by Saturday we did. 4th round, one long drive for the day out of the 160 people playing. So pretty happy with that one too. No, I suck at baseball. Like, I'm terrible at baseball. So if you want to, like, baseball is what you want to play me, and I am awful at it. For some reason, I'm just not good at baseball.
Yeah, he's especially because Mike, when he lived out in California, he used to play gloveless softball. So if you ever meet Mike in person, he's got some offensive lineman fingers. They're kind of all pointing different directions.
Playing short in a Chicago style league with a 16-inch ball, it's not good for the long-term health of your fingers. Let me just put it that way. You get some ripped at you, and if you don't pick it up cleanly, yeah. And I'm one of those people, when you break a finger, you just go to you go buy a splint. Like, you don't actually go to the doctor's office, and it'll be fine in 4 weeks. So that, spoiler alert, it's not fine in 4 weeks. They're still bent all over the place, but yeah, what can you do?
It's fine if you don't care which direction your fingertips pointing. That's fine then.
That is true. One more real quick best thing I saw today. Inside the bubble in the NBA. So have you heard the guest policy?
No.
Okay, so each player gets one ticket plus an extra seat if the other person is under 32 inches. Okay, so Lily is 2 years old and she is 35 inches. So, and I'm just going to go out on a limb and say NBA players have taller kids. You could end up with the only people in the arena, a bunch of wives with like 1.5-year-olds for all the playoff games. So the sounds that you hear in the background is just gonna be like crying babies all over the place, which would bring a really interesting twist to the NBA playoffs at this point.
My God, that would be incredible.
So I'm very interested to see how we play out. Like the actual, okay, what age is the average age of the crowd could be like 8.5, depending on how this thing plays out. So I'm really interested in the NBA playoffs and who is actually in the crowd in the bubble now.
Jeez, that's incredible. I didn't even realize that I didn't know there was a guest policy, but that's crazy. Speaking of guest policies, I have two best things and then one of them is going to be someone who didn't have a guest policy and tried breaking it anyways. The Seattle Seahawks cornerback, Kiva Simran. I'm probably saying his name wrong. I'd apologize, but no, I'm not going to apologize. He made a stupid ass decision. If you didn't hear about this, he was cut from the team because they caught him trying to sneak a visitor, a female, into the team hotel at night, which is obviously everybody's trying to bubble. They don't have one central bubble like the NBA does, but all the teams are like, we're all staying together. Nobody's, going on, especially during training camp. He tried smuggling her in wearing Seahawks gear, hoping that nobody would notice that there's, probably a much smaller person with long hair trying to sneak into the facility, acting like an NFL player. If you ever met NFL players, even the kickers and punters, they're beasts. They are full-blown, like, monstrous athletes. It'd be unless this is like a WNBA star or like, a decathlete or something like that, you're not going to get somebody into like sneaking the woman in. But the stupidity of trying to do this, and I get he's 23, he's a single guy, he's got money. You couldn't have stopped the car somewhere at home if you really just needed to get it done, or you couldn't have gone to like a park or like literally anywhere other than the team facility where everybody's watching you. You couldn't have done that. Come on.
Yeah, I mean, this is someone who should never be in a heist team. Let's just put it that way. I mean, there's definitely better ways to get the job done if you need to. I mean, you could sneak her in other ways. You could sneak out. I mean, but yeah, trying to just walk through the front door. I mean, you're not. This isn't Ocean's 11, man. Like, you're not just walking out with the money here. You got to come up with a better plan than that. So, but hey, you know what? Kind of happy he did it because it's an awesome story. So I'm okay with him trying it. Just a little bit of a bonehead move, though.
Yeah, so he's cut, and he's, I'm happy that the Seahawks did this, and they didn't even waste any time doing it, because it really sets a precedent, not just for the team, but the other 31 teams can now, like, if you've got a team that maybe you're in a state like Florida where, they still think this isn't real, and the sheriff is banning people from wearing masks in a specific county there, the teams are now able to say, look, the Seahawks did it, so we have to do it. That precedent. We didn't want to, but we've got to cut you because you were stupid. So it sets a good precedent for people being safe. The other best thing that I saw, thanks to Paul Withrow, is Free Beers Paul in our fantasy league, a great friend of the dudes. 3 years ago today, Aaron and Jared and I met, he and his wife Monique, at Del Mar when Jared was out doing the short-lived Del Mar or TVG show at Del Mar. That's what it was called. I can't remember what it was called. I don't know if Jared would even remember. Jared's watching. Jared, can you tell us if you even remembered Win Place show? Anyways, we met them because they had a very small ownership in a horse. Became good friends with them, drank a lot with them. And then afterwards, they said, you want to go back to the barn and meet our horse? And I've never been back to a barn before. I was like, yeah, this is incredible. Like, I got into horse racing a lot because I love horses. So they take us back to the barns. And he was texting with the assistant trainer, Jerry Hollendorfer, and was like, hey, where's Songbird? And all of a sudden he just goes, hey, you guys want to go see Songbird? And Songbird was like my first love in horse racing as a horse. Like, I got in right when she was a juvenile, and I was like, this filly's incredible. And it's fitting that we're talking about her when we're going to talk about the Alabama Stakes here coming up. But I was like, we get to just go, and we just walked right over. And along the way, we passed the John Sadler barn. So, we got to meet Stellar Wind and a bunch of other stars that he had at the time. And
not so bad.
No, not so bad. And then we go over, we meet Songbird, and I got to meet Song. It's like meeting an athlete and someone just telling you, hey, Mike, like, you want to go meet Babe Ruth? And you're like, maybe not right. That's probably a bad example. If you want to meet Babe Ruth right now, like, are we going digging up a grave? Like, what's happening? But just the idea that I got to go see Songbird, and then she went off to Saratoga, and it was actually when she lost, and then that was her last career race. So I got to see her right before she was retired. But
jinxing her, man.
We fed her a lot of carrots, and there's part of me like afterwards, when they announced that she was hurt, I was like, can you get hurt from eating too many carrots? Like, is that bad for horses? Because I legit thought maybe we did that. But Paul texted me this morning a picture of me just with the goofiest. I'm not even put the picture up because it's terrible. It's just a goofy ass stance. But I was so happy, and just like my eyes are huge and my smile is like half my face. And I like the fact that I got to like, pet her and hold her head. And oh God, it was amazing. So it was a nice little wake up present from Paul, which is not something I say that often, to get that picture sent to me. So thank you, Paul.
Back to your first thing that you had. No, Songbird's awesome, man. I she's one of those horses that I will always love. My wife and I took a selfie with Songbird at Saratoga because we were right by the white fence. So we got as she was walking by to go out, we took a picture there, and then obviously seeing her at the Breeders' Cup, man, when she just went, I think it was Beholder that she went nose to nose with for the last eighth of a mile. I mean, that was one of those.
I'll say she won.
One of those incredible races where you don't ever forget that stretch duel. And if you want to go and get some goosebumps, just go ahead and watch that Beholder Songbird duel, because man, two horses that I absolutely loved. I love Beholder because of the move she made in the Pacific Classic, and I love Songbird because of Songbird. So it was awesome to see them bang heads and really throw down and see who was the better horse. Although, do we really know? I mean, like you said, it's one of those races where it was just up and down the whole way.
And it was just, God, you're going to make me see. It's one of those races where I really want to go back and watch as a racing fan, because it's such an amazing, just from start to finish, they threw it down. But as a Songbird fan, I can't. It's like a Zenyatta fan being like, I'm going to watch 19 races.
Yeah,
I'm going to watch 19.
She only ran one classic, not two.
Exactly. Yeah, I get it. So.
And there are a lot of those, man. When you just have that race that you want that horse to win. I mean, I remember, I think it was Curlin in the last in the last Breeders' Cup, where I really just wanted him to win. He wasn't able to get the job done. I mean, you have some of these horses where they just miss in their last race, and you want to just coronate them, and you want that, the whole crowd's rooting for him. I remember being at that Zenyatta Breeders' Cup, and I don't think I've ever been in a race where it was quieter right after the finish line. The whole air just went out of the place. And if you're new to horse racing, I highly recommend going back and watching some of these races. I mean, seeing some of these champions run and some of the efforts that they put in are absolutely amazing. And two of the ones I'd definitely put on the list. I mean, the Cigar Breeders' Cup Classic, when he wins one for America at Belmont. I mean, the Zenyatta Breeders' Cup Classic, where she both wins and loses, were both amazing. And that Songbird race with Beholder was absolutely incredible too.
Did you mean Tiz now? You said Cigar. Did you mean Tiz
now?
Now?
Yeah, Tiz now. Okay. Yeah, that one. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
I also like the one where Cigar wins, and it's when he's at the undefeated season, and I think that was it wasn't at Woodbine. I'm not sure where that one was. But yeah, the Cigar Breeders' Cup Classic win was pretty awesome too. He lost at Woodbine, I think, to Alphabet Soup. So yeah, it was a lot of races to go back and watch and just check out.
Well, on today's show, like I said, we're going to be talking about the Alabama Stakes, which is part of the late pick 4 sequence at Saturday on Saratoga. This year, it is a Kentucky Oaks prep race and a Breeders' Cup, a winning urn for the Longines Distaff. Mike, there's a couple of like really big favorites in these races, and we wouldn't have picked this sequence if we didn't think that they were vulnerable and you could beat them here. So don't expect us to go single here coming up. We'll get into it, Mike. Riders up. All right, kicking things off at Saturday. Let me try that again.
One more time. I'm going to do my best to pay attention the whole time too. I got the last of Saratoga that's going to go off soon. So you may see me looking over this way a little bit, but yeah, just warn you ahead of time.
Good to have you back, buddy.
Yeah, that's what I do.
Kicking things off at Saratoga on Saturday, August 15th, we're going to go to race 8. This is the $500,000 Saratoga Derby Invitational. It's crazy that it's not graded in its second year. You've got a field of 8 3-year-old males going 1 mile and 3/16 on the outer turf course, and the favoritism is going to be on the number 2 Decorated Invader at 7-5. If you're watching live or on the replay, I've got the Equibase pulled up here for you so you can follow along with us. Decorated Invader 7-5. This is, I don't think anybody can dispute, this is the number 1 3-year-old turfer in the country right now. He's done nothing wrong. Like, he looks fantastic. He always wins with plenty left. So you'd think that the distance is an issue, but you and I we're using him defensively, I feel like, because we're trying to beat him here. Who are you using on top?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. He's definitely won impressively in every race. And so that, you're not sure if those speed figures are necessarily where he's going to top out. You'd think that there is something left. Man, I'm going to go back to the 4-horse. I took Domestic Spending over Decorated Invader last time, and the trip that Domestic Spending got wasn't wonderful. And I thought Decorated Invader just got the absolute setup because, in that race you had, it's the loose leader, right? Where Get Smoking went out and was up 7 lengths and 4 lengths. And sometimes the best possible place to be is right behind those loose leaders. And that's exactly the setup that Decorated Invader got. And look, I don't want to swallow the short price. I mean, I realize that Clement and Rosario have been absolutely on fire as a team. We talked about that last time that I was on the show with the percentages that you showed for that pair. But man, this horse is going to get bet down very heavily. And this is a really good field. I mean, I think you have to respect what's in here. And Decorated Invader doesn't have the best speed numbers coming out of here. I think there's more upside in the 4-horse who's more lightly raced. I could totally end up eating my words here, but I'm going to swing against Decorated Invader. I'm actually going to take a swing against every single favorite in this sequence, which is, I hopefully it returns a big number because I am going to play a larger ticket than I normally play for just 50 cents. So I'm going to start out using the 4 on top here with domestic spending. Decorated Invader is going to be my other must use. They're both coming out of the same race. It was kind of a funky Hall of Fame race, but I don't think either should have any issue with the extra distance. And I like the fact that Ortiz stays up. Irad Ortiz stays up on Decorated Spending. The fact that horse is getting Irad back with the added distance, I think is a good sign. The fact that Chad Brown wheels this horse right back into what should, like you said, be a graded stakes here in its second running, but is not, is a good sign as well. You're back. All right. So I use those two as my use.
Sorry. No, my camera's done this a couple of times where it'll just start flickering for the bottom half and I can't figure out, but if I just unplug it, plug it back in. I heard you the whole time. You made great points for him.
Love it. All right. So I'm assuming you used the 2 and the 4, right?
I did not use the 4.
Really?
I did not use the 4. I did not. And this is crazy because
Chuck and Chad, although he has been bad on the turf this year.
And that's the thing. Any other year, you would go, it's Chad Brown, it's Irad, it's Klarovich Stables, it's a Saratoga Turf Stakes. Why are you not using it? And we talked about this in our text chain. Chad Brown, 7 for 49 on the turf at Saratoga this meet. 7 for 49. And with a lot of good horses. And he's 65% in the money. So his horses they're hitting the board, but they're not getting the job done. And you're seeing a case like with domestic spending. I mean, he ran well in that race, and you would project improvement for him. Third start off the layoff. He should, as a son of Kingman, be able to handle the distance, no issue.
Yep.
But listen, and you're getting 6-1 on him too. So if I'm not going to talk you off of him, I'm just saying for me, my ticket's a lot cheaper than yours is this time. So I ended up not using him. I did use the 2. You got to love that he's got 2 wins in the second at Saratoga.
Yep.
But here's the thing. Since you and I talked and I put up that graphic about Clement and Rosario, Christophe Clement is 0 for 15 this meet.
So
since I put up that graphic.
So you're telling me that barns get hot and then they cool off, and some cold barns seem to heat up at certain times. Is that what I'm hearing from you, Magic?
I knew that was going to happen. Yeah. That's exactly what I'm saying to you.
Look, man, when Chad Brown is clicking at 26% on the dirt, and we actually got into a little text chain fight over this, and he is crushing it on the dirt this meet.
He is.
But he's quote unquote having a terrible meet because he can't run well on the turf. Guess what? That's going to change at some point. Like, you can keep Chad Brown down on the dirt. Like, you could make an argument, but you're not going to keep him down on the turf with the way that his stable's loaded and the way that he trains. And I'm scared to chuck him in anything right now. When his dirt numbers are that good, that means his barn's live. And like you said, he's in the money all over the place. It's a matter of getting the nose down at the right time. We saw him win last weekend in the undercard with what's her name, Mrs. Nat, my sister Nat.
My sister, my sister, Sister Charlie's sister, yeah.
Yep. And so I think you're going to start seeing more of these Chad Brown horses get home, and I like that 6-1 price. But anyway, who else are you using here? Because I'm sure you went more than just Decorated Invader.
I did, and you and I agree on the 6 Colonel Liam. It was the last one of these 3 and I was actually between the 6 and the 4 about who to use here. I went back and watched the replay of that last race. Look at those internal splits, specifically how this horse finished. The mile, it doesn't show up on the PPs, but if you watch the race, the mile was in 1:34.91 seconds. He went 5.6 seconds in the final 16th of a mile over this exact Saratoga course. He was going a little slow, going shorter, but the fact that he, in his first time on turf, did a final 16th in 5.5 seconds, woof, he was smoking there. Before that, there was a 22.91 quarter mile. So he was trailing, he was watching, and then when it came time to go, man, he effing flew. He kicked it into high gear fast. And it's nice to see that when you spend $1.2 million on a horse, he finally figures it out in his third time. I'm going to say he didn't finally figure it out. I think what happened is that they finally put him on turf. I think they wanted this to be a Derby horse. And that's kind of the way that they originally put him out there. And as soon as he touched turf, and Liam's maps have been doing well on turf, as soon as he touched turf, you saw how good this horse actually could be, and you saw why they paid 1.2 for him. So I think that is a totally legit 100 buyer. And I'm sure some people are going to be like, oh, no. But like you said,
they came home fast, man. I mean, those are some good splits, and he was not on the lead too. He was the one who ended up running the very fast splits at the end, but he actually closed into it. So he ran faster in that final half mile than even it's showing on paper. So I think that was a huge race. I don't see how you don't use Colonel Liam here.
And then he works one time after that race, and if you're worried about a bounce factor, he gets a bullet best of 12, minute and 4 on the Saratoga turf. I think he's not going to bounce here. I'm taking a shot. I'm not happy that it's 7-2. I thought that I was going to get a better price on him because he doesn't have any stakes experience, but I think that 100 buyer is going to get a lot of people's attention. But I don't know. Who knows? Maybe enough sharp bettors will fade him. You and I are not fading him. You have one other horse that we haven't talked about. Go ahead and explain. Yeah.
Also on Liam's map, by the way, that was his first crop. Rarely do you see a first crop sire standing for $35,000 with a $1.2 million sale. I mean, that's crazy money for a $35,000 standing sire with absolutely no track record. Right? So that tells you that it must have been ultra impressive. I'm going to go out and I'm going to use the 3, no word. And this is kind of taking a little bit of a swing. I think it's interesting that Pletcher puts this horse in. Shamrocket came back and ran well. Value Engineering, the horse before that, was very good. You can see Spectre in Our Country, which this horse ran behind its second start in 2019. I think the extra distance is going to hit this horse right between the eyes. I like the fact that his best buyer was going 1.25 miles. And I think you're going to get every single bit of that 15-1 price. So you're telling me I'm getting the leading jockey and I'm getting the other Pletcher at 15-1 in this race? Yeah, sign me up. Let's go. I mean, it's a swing. I'm totally admitting this horse needs to improve. It needs to get a trip. But if this horse gets home, it's going to blow the board up. And there's been horses running well out of that Shamrocket no word race. I like the class here, and I think the distance matters. And I'm definitely stabbing here. But man, I think this is a good spot to stab because if you get that, we're talking 4 figures immediately if the 3 gets home and we beat Swiss Skydiver.
Yeah. That's the big reason why you and I went after. We're trying to beat. We're using him defensively because we're not trying to just lose all of our money, but we're definitely trying to beat him. I didn't use, but you make good argument for him. I'm gonna actually use the other Christophe Clement, which is funny because I talked about how cold he suddenly got. But I watched I don't know how many people watched the Kent Stakes at Delaware Park. Probably not that many. I watched that. This horse was. The turn of foot that he showed, I thought was as good as what anyone in this field has shown, including Colonel Liam when he won at Saratoga. Trevor McCarthy didn't hit him. He did the final 16th in 11 1/4, and he never got hit. And this horse, as soon as he tipped him out, Trevor just went go, and he just took off. And he only won by a half length, but you've got to watch that replay because that was about the most confident half length win you'll see. He just kept going, yep, I got this, and he never pushed it. He saved some more for Johnny Velasquez to take over here. It's his second start off of a little bit of a break. He had won the English Channel Stakes at Gulfstream Park, which wasn't graded, but that was a pretty salty version of an ungraded stakes race. He won, so he's on a four race win streak here. Christophe Clement had been hot earlier. I'm hoping he can, if he doesn't get with Decorated Invader, I think Gufo is just about as good as anyone here.
Yeah, I wouldn't talk you off Gufo. For me, this horse has been always the best horse in every race it's been in.
Yes. He's been bet that way.
Yes. And has never done anything wrong. This is the first time I think this is a pretty big step up in class for him. And I don't think you're going to get the price to justify it. And that's kind of the reason I laid off on Gufo. Now, depending on how this thing plays out, if we have a couple scratches in other races and I end up going shorter, I may end up all here because this is an 8-horse field. I'm already using 4. I think you can make an argument for both. If you like Field Pass, then you kind of have to like Bama Breeze. And then all of a sudden you're using Gufo too. And then you're 7 deep in an 8-horse field. And you're really being dumb if you don't hit the all button. So depending on how the race day actually plays out, I do think this is a legit all race if you want to do it. But for me, I didn't want to go 5 because then I was leaning toward all, and I don't like the price on Gufo for what I think is a pretty big step up in class.
Lots of smack talk coming from Michael Myers, who says single to 4 if magic is fading. It's big words from a guy who couldn't even manage $2 whole in our head-to-head handicapping contest a few weeks ago there, buddy. So be careful throwing stones at glass houses. We'll move on to the feature race of the day at Saratoga on Saturday, August 15th. Race 9 is the Grade 1 $500,000 Alabama Stakes. Field of 7 3-year-old fillies going 1.25 miles on the main track. So basically the female version of the Traverse that we saw last week. This is for the first time, like I said, is a Kentucky Oaks prep worth 140, 20, and 10 points to the top 4 finishers. It's also Breeders' Cup win-in, you're in for the Longines Distaff. And you've got the favoritism is on the number 5, Swiss Skydiver. at even money. If you look at who she's facing and who she's been facing and how well she's done, you really can't fault her for that. You're going to get so much. I'm guessing 2 to 5 is what you're going to get on her when she goes off. And if there's scratches, it'll be even lower than that. I did make her the top pick here, but I almost actually made someone else the top pick. You're using her defensively as well. Talk about your picks.
Yeah, man. I am not going to put her on top here. And this is one of those interesting things. If you ask me who the most likely horse to win is, I 100% agree. It's probably Swiss Skydiver, right? If you ask me who I think is a horse a must use, no, not in my mind, because the price is just, it's going to go so low, and she's going to get so heavily bet. I mean, you mentioned 2 to 5. I think you might see 1 to 5 here. I mean, there are going to be people lining up at the windows to play this horse because of how Art Collector is run out of the bluegrass, and the fact that she's now facing the girls, or again after facing the boys. I am interested to see what kind of setup she gets. Now, she should have no issue with the distance, and McPeak has said he doesn't believe there'll be any issue with the distance. But we are going 1.25 miles, which is a tough distance, especially at Saratoga to get. And there's a lot of pace in this race. I don't think Crystal Ball is a threat to win, but Crystal Ball is going to push the pace. And if they go 47, I mean, it's going to be tough to be able to get the job done up front. I'm going to go to the 2 horses, my top pick. Look, I know that Spice is Nice got rocked by Swiss Skydiver 2 back in the Gulfstream Park Oaks. That was the only time that Spice is Nice wasn't a couple lengths off the lead. She ended up 5 wide in the lane. She was kind of empty. She just didn't have it. She was 2 to 1 that day. And that day was when Swiss Skydiver it was her coming out party. She won at a 10 to 1 price. She was able to wire the field. Paco center. No one was closing all day that day. So the fact that Spice is Nice didn't make a run, it doesn't really bother me at all. Now we take a break. We get a nice freshening, and man, Spice is Nice looked awesome over C'est Moi, who's actually a pretty good horse. She was a little disappointing in her last at 1 to 2 at Saratoga, but she is a good horse in the Mott Barn. Being second off the layoff, Curlin should have absolutely no issue with this distance. Pletcher's very good second off the layoff. Velasquez understands what needs to happen in front. And I look back at like that mile at Gulfstream where she's sitting 5th and she's able to make a run. I don't think this horse needs the lead or needs to be close to it. I think she's going to probably sit a couple lengths back. But man, you're going to have the 3 go. You're going to have the 5 go. You're going to have the 6 up close. I mean, you're going to have pace pressure all day in this race. And I just don't see the trip for Swiss Skydiver that she's gotten in the last couple. And on top of that, you're going to have this extra distance. Now, I respect the hell out of her, man. After that last race, which was absolutely awesome, I'm not going to completely throw her out, but I just want to take a swing against her because that's also the longest distance she ran, the fastest distance she's gone. She's like, this campaign is a pretty strong campaign at this point. I mean, since February, she's had no layoff, running 5 graded stakes and been up front in all of them. At some point, that is going to start taking a toll. And I think this might be the race. And if we can get a price and get this thing home, then I think you're going to be able to really balloon this pick 4. So I'm going to take a swing against her. I'm going to use Spice is Nice on top. I'm going to use Swiss Skydiver. I'm going to use one other one. Where did you end up in your Magic?
Spice is Nice is the second horse I use. And I respect the hell out of Swiss Skydiver too, like you said. The price is terrible, and I think that's a huge reason why we're trying to beat her here. Because if she wins, no matter who wins that first race, this is paying maybe $100 as a pick 4. Listen, second off the layoff, she was never ever touched in that last race when she won at Belmont Park. Johnny V knew what he had underneath him. She just, when it was time to take over, he took over and off she went. I think of every horse in this field. They're all going to 1.25 miles for the first time. I think this is the one I have the least concerns about handling the distance. Not only is she by Curlin, but she's out of a Bernardini mare who, yes, she was multiple graded stakes winner sprinting. But if you look at her dam sire, it was the great Woodman. Woodman sired 5 grade 1 winners at classic distances, like 2 different Preakness winners, a Belmont winner, a couple of overseas English winners. Like a very great backbone here. So you have to, sometimes when you look at the pedigree for a horse, you have to look beyond what did that first layer, that first dam do? What does she bring in? Because, there's certain, genetic traits with humans that skips a grade or skips a generation and it goes down to the next one. You see that happen with horses here too. The one concern I have is that the Gulfstream Park Oaks, that was her only time routing. All of those other races were one turn, but like you said, it just wasn't her race. And maybe it was just a little bit too much too soon. But I remember that Swiss Skydiver smoked everybody, and that's what started this whole big run that she's been on. And this is, same connection, same owner, same trainer as the Pletcher horse that we were just talking about in the last race. bought for $1,000,000.05. So
let's hope they have
lots
a day.
of money.
Yeah. Trying to get some of it back now.
Yeah. So those are the two that I use, and you're using the third horse here. There's a big question with the 6, Harvey's Little Goyle. You got to figure out, did the light finally turn on her for her last time when she won the Regret, which, by the way, you and I both had her on our tickets, 11-1. Congrats to us. Or is she just better on turf? She's American Pharoah. There's a lot of breeding on her dam side that says she should handle either distance and should handle either surface and handle the distance.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't use her, but make a case for Harvey's Little Goyle.
Yeah, I mean, to me, look, this horse is improving. If you look at what it did last year, the Beyers actually fit. I mean, it ran an 82 Beyer early in its 3-year-old season at Aqueduct, absolutely romping in a $101,000 stakes race. So the distance definitely will not be an issue. No, she didn't beat much that day. I will completely give that up. Like she beat nothing, but she did it impressively. And I like the fact that we're going to have some added distance for her here. Again, I like the fact that she's going to be able to come off the pace, but has tactical speed if she needs it. I mean, she was up close to a 1:11.6 furlongs last time out and was able to win going 1 1/8. Yeah, turf may be your better surface, but Bill Mott is really good at this. I don't think people give him enough credit for what he is able to do with these horses going turf to dirt, dirt to dirt, dirt to turf, and then turf to dirt. You look at a horse like Yoshida, who is able to win a grade 1 on multiple surfaces. The pedigree here is for her to be able to go to either surface and be successful. And I think this is a great place to take a shot. And again, the distance shouldn't be an issue, 1.25 miles for Harvey's Little Goyle. And I don't think this horse is going to get bet. I really don't. I think that you're going to get all that 10-1 price. And I don't see why this horse couldn't be rolling late when you have some other horses that are kind of stumbling up front. And if she's able to, and we have some back numbers that kind of fit with this, again, this is a really nice live price. And to me, that's what really jumped out. I mean, I don't like Crystal Ball at all, right? I'm against Bonnie South here. If anyone else I'd use the 1, which is the other McPeak horse, which I think is kind of interesting that's even in here. It makes you kind of scratch your head. And after we see Gamine do what she did at 7 furlongs, and the fact that, look, she's faster than Swiss Skydiver, and she can get 1.25 miles, she's winning the Oaks. I mean, or 1.8 miles, she's winning the Oaks. So, I mean, maybe Swiss Skydiver's headed back to the Derby. Maybe Swiss Skydiver's not completely ramped up here. Maybe McPeak wants to get the 1 horse into the Oaks. There's so many questions that I have around who else is running and how this is going that I feel like you could find a long shot. You could find an upset here. And since I'm against the 3 and the 4, to me, that means that looking at a horse like the 6 is a great spot to try and get a number in. And if I use anyone else, it would be the 1. That would be the last one that was off my ticket here.
The only horse we didn't talk about was a 7 Fire Coral. Steve Asmussen, grade 1, Saratoga on the dirt. What do you think?
I mean, if this was a sprint, then you got to include it. I mean, look, I even said on the thread, it's funny. I get so much shit for this Asmussen thing. He's good. I mean, it's funny. 2 of his 4 graded stakes winners, I had top pick singles as, because you know when he's going to fire in the dirt sprints, right? I mean, that's where you should be using him. 2-year-old dirt sprint, second off a layoff. Those are good Asmussen stats. It's when he gets bet like a 20% trainer, which he is, in races where he's just not 20%. That's where I have an issue with it. He's not a bad trainer. He's an overbet trainer. And that's all I'm screaming.
I just love that it became its own monster. Like it was something that was small. And then because you and Aaron are both like hard set in your opinions, it just kept building. And then the rest of us are just throwing, gasoline on the fire. We're like, go.
Well, here's the thing. If you're a Midwest person, if you're a Kentucky person, if you're an Oakland person, you love Steve Asmussen with a passion. He is everything that is horse racing. He is wonderful there. If you're a New York person, you kind of see him and you kind of chuckle a little bit because it's like, okay, come on, bring him in. Let's see what happens. And
welcome to the party.
It's funny. He's having his best Saratoga dirt meet in years. And his ROI is significantly worse than Chad Brown, who's having his worst Saratoga meet in years. Just saying.
Mike's opinion always comes down to the odds. That's what it is.
Chad Brown won the last, by the way.
I did see that. Yeah, somebody threw it up there in the chat. We'll move on to the 10th race at Saratoga on Saturday, August 15th, the third leg of the late pick 4 sequence. At a field of 9 New York breds, 3 and up, going 5.5 furlongs on the outer turf. These are state bred, optional claimer, non-winners of 2 other than. Favoritism is on the number 1, Maxwell Esquire, at 5-2. He's a 3-year-old taking on elders, but he didn't have a problem with this before. It's Rosario and Clement, so you got to figure out, are you going to ride the train, hope that they get hot again, or what's going to happen? The bad news for Maxwell Esquire, he's very pace dependent. The good news for him, there's about 8 horses in this race that want the lead. So I think he's going to have the pace set up. It's just being on the rail Might be a little tough for him. He's my top choice, but I went pretty deep here. Where are you going on top?
I didn't use him. He was the last one off for me here. And man, I really like a horse in this spot. I almost singled here. This was the closest I came to singling, and it's a pretty aggressive single. I'm not gonna lie. I like the 4 Call Me Harry on top. I mean, look, Kelsey Danner's not one of those trainers that you hear about a ton, but he is 12% off the layoff with a 362 ROI. Turf sprinting, he's 18% with a 292 ROI. Horse is working really well in the morning. This horse loves Saratoga. 2 for 2 over this turf. 89 buyer as a 3-year-old. We're getting first as a 4-year-old with a horse that actually fires off the layoff. Velasquez takes the call. He's only ridden for this trainer 3 times in the last 2 years, with one of those being a win. We get Lasix for the first time as a 4-year-old. I expect a career best effort here. And if this horse improves to a career best effort, good night. Call Me Harry's going to win this race by 2 lengths. I mean, I really like this horse. If it wasn't off that layoff, if this was second as a 4-year-old, this would be a single for me. But I will tell you, I will be running to the window at 3-1. I do like the horse that much, where I will bet this horse to win place at 3-1 if we get that price. I'm really not sure what price I'm going to end up getting. I'm hoping it floats up, because I do think there's a lot of horses. The 1 and the 2 are going to take some money here. Let's be honest. Like, both of those are going to get bet pretty good. I'm hoping that means the 4 floats up a little bit. And I'm going 3 deep here. I'm hoping I can get my other horse to float up as well. I am going to use the 2. I thought that was kind of the next horse in for me. Shiraz makes a ton of sense for Maker here. The back numbers really fit well with this field. If you can go back to that 91 that it ran at Aqueduct, that should be good enough to win. At this level, missed by a nose last year to Dallas Beach, who is a very, very good horse. Has been successful turf sprinting here at Saratoga and was in form last year. Hasn't been fully in form this year. But man, what really gave it away is that this horse was in the Maker barn for the entire season last year, gets claimed for $35K from Maker, goes into the Falcone barn. Falcone runs it back at 25 at the start of the meet. Maker snaps it up and protects it. He wants to take a swing with this horse, doesn't want to give it away. I think that tells you a lot about what to expect from the 2 as well.
Yep, I use the 2 Shiraz. I use both those horses. I use the 2 Shiraz. The connections, these are not dumb connections. So when they do something like that, I was able to hit on a Ronus Sadler horse that they had claimed, and immediately threw him on the turf. I'm sorry, at Del Mar. And it was the first time on turf, it didn't work, and they threw him right back on turf again, and they weren't risking losing him. And I was telling Dan, I was like, they're not doing this because they're stupid. They're doing this because they saw something in him, claimed him, threw him on a new surface for the first time. They believed him and got him on the second time. You're also seeing Luis Saez ride through all of these barn changes.
Yep.
He's very devoted to him. Yeah, he's devoted to Mike Maker, but I mean, look at it. He was, like you said, all last year when he was in a great form, Saez was riding him. So Shiraz is a significant pick. Call Me Harry, you made all great points. Here's also something. John Velasquez and Joel Rosario now have the same jockey agent, which is what caused all of the kerfuffle over Gamine and Venetian Harbor running against each other, and Joel Rosario not doing what the owners wanted. So there was that whole kerfuffle that you missed, Aaron and I get into talking about.
Kerfuffle, really?
Yeah, it was a kerfuffle. It was a Twitter kerfuffle. But so Rosario's agent knows this horse. He put Rosario on him last year. Now Velasquez is getting aboard for, again, a trainer who's never had a starter at this meet. This will be the first starter. And Velasquez has only ridden 3 times in the last 2 years. Somebody's saying something here. Somebody knows this horse is going to be good. And it's a Street Sense horse. Street Sense is very, very talented sire. How often do you see a New York bred Street Sense that's out of a Bernardini mare? Like, there's a lot of potential here with this breeding.
I'll tell you, this is the horse that I'm going to keep an eye on. If this horse runs like a dud, I will be betting second time back for sure. I mean, but man, again, this was, if I play a $5 ticket, this is going to be my single in the $5 ticket, so I can try and beat a couple favorites early and late.
We each used one other one. I'll give you mine. The 5 New York's Finest was actually the last horse that I threw on. I made a note to come back and see if I could afford to throw him back in. This horse really has not been on form since getting claimed for $16,000. But these connections, Mike Dub Bethlehem stable, I don't know why they just let him stay in Gulfstream Park. Maybe they thought because the turf is speed favoring and this horse likes to be on the front end. Maybe they thought this was going to work out well. It was okay. They sent him to Rudy Rodriguez. Rudy Rod, I don't know a lot about New York racing. I know Rudy Rod's pretty damn good, especially when you get to these lower levels at getting horses to fire and to improve. And this horse, he's going to have to go back to his form from a year ago when he had a 94 buyer at Monmouth Park if he wants to try and get into this action here. But he's also going to need to be up front pressing the lead. There's a lot of reasons to not play him, but Rudy Rod getting this horse and getting his first action plus the fact this horse has not all 9 career wins have come at this distance on the turf. That was a big thing for me. I couldn't ignore it. I'd love better than 6-1. I think that's an IRAD and Rudy Rod play right there. Is that why it's so short? But I'm going to take a shot with him here. I know Dennis liked him. You didn't use him, but what did you think?
Yeah, I mean, this one was close for me. I like you mentioned earlier, there's a lot of pace in this race, and this horse needs to be on the lead to win. It really doesn't like to pass many horses. The only time that wasn't true was when it was running in a 12-5 claimer for Linda Rice. Significantly more difficult field. This horse did run at this level at Saratoga last year and ended up closing well to finish 5th to Dow's Beach, who I mentioned earlier, but was a length and a half back where the 4 was closer, and the 4, I believe, has more of a chance to improve. I do like the fact that Ortiz picks up the mount. He has ridden him to a win before, was able to do that over the Gulfstream turf. Look, those low-level Gulfstream turf sprints, it sets up for a horse like New York's Finest to win. You're going to need to take a big step forward here, and I'm just not sure that you're going to be able to do that off a layoff at 6. To me, the biggest plus, this horse is 4 for 6 on the Saratoga turf. Mm-hmm. And horses for course exist at Saratoga because of those tight turns, especially in these turf sprints. So, I wouldn't talk you off New York's Finest. I can understand why someone would be interested in using New York's Finest, but for me, I'm not. I'm worried this horse is going to take some money, and this horse is going to need to go back to its career best to be able to beat this field. And I'm just not sure it's going to be able to do that today with the setup that's getting off a layoff. I do like the 8 horse quite a bit, though, and this is going to be the last horse in for me. Royal Asset. It's a Tom Morley horse, and he's pretty good on turf. It was specifically turf sprinting is 14%, which is one of the better numbers he has as a barn. He's ice cold at Saratoga, or so it looks like, since he's 0 for 10. But 5 of those 10 horses have been in the money. So to me, there's some racing luck involved there, so that doesn't bother me that much. One of the biggest things here for me, look, first off, this horse ran on the turf the last 2 times. The 3 previous times, this horse didn't touch the turf. So just draw a line through the 42, 67, 51 numbers. Time before that, he goes 7 furlongs. It's probably a little bit too long for it. Flip back to the race before that. You got Gaffleone up 5.5 at Saratoga. This horse pops an 88 buyer. Time before that, on the turf, 88 buyer. You come back. He comes back on the turf, runs 6 furlongs at Belmont on June 25th, runs a 77, then comes back and runs an 87. But note that both of those are with bug jocks. We're going from 2 bugs to Gaffleone, 3rd off a layoff, over a course this horse likes, with buyers that fit against this group at 8-1, and this horse is going to sit the perfect trip in this field. You can just see this horse sitting in that mid-second flight, being able to decide he's not going to be tucked inside. He'll be probably too wide going around the turn in 5th or 6th place, going to get first run on the leaders, which if they come back at all, he's going to be able to pass. I think the 8's awfully dangerous. And I think it might even float up a little bit because it's if you don't look at just the turf numbers, and if you look at the last where it lost to Bustin' Stones in here, I think you might be able to get some value here on the 8. And I think it's a very live horse.
Yeah, so there's 3 horses here: Bust and Shout, Royal Asset, the 8 horse who used,
Bust and Shout. My bad.
No, it's okay. And Valmont. Those 3 horses are all exiting the same race. I went and watched that race. Royal Asset is the only one I would want to touch out of there because Bust and Shout had an easy lead where he went 21-4 basically on the front end on his own. And they allowed him to run that second quarter mile in 23 seconds in a goddamn turf sprint at Saratoga. He got away with 23 seconds. So when he re-rallies in the stretch late, it's because he hasn't tried yet. And so that's why he was able to fight back and get the better of Royal Asset, who was making a nice move. I think you made excellent points I didn't use him, but I thought if you used 1 horse from that race, this is the one you want to take moving forward. And
Royal Asset also owes me. That horse cost the Salmon a pick 5 that day, and it was 13-1. And if you watch that race, Royal Asset was home. Like, by all intents and purposes, it looked like that horse was home. And, this is Louis Cardenas, who I think is a very good bug jock. And I really like, not at Saratoga, but at Belmont, at Aqueduct. Won the first race of the meet. I don't think he's won since. So again, the move up from Gaffleone, or from 2 bugs and to Gaffleone, I think is a significant move up. And if the horse takes a step forward, everything else fits in this field. And I think we've got an official freeze on Magic too. Or is it me? That's the question. So Magic's still frozen. So I'm going to end up going 3 deep here. I'm going to use the 2 Shiraz, the 4 Call Me Harry, and the 8 Royal Asset in this spot. I do think the 9 is kind of interesting in Bust and Shout, and if it is able to get an easy lead again, then it could be pretty dangerous. But it crashed. Okay. It could be pretty dangerous, but like Magic said, I do think that everyone is going to be flying early there. So we'll see what happens with the early pace. I think that's really going to dictate how this race ends up playing out. Going to go and see if this feed is still going or not. It is. So for me, yeah, I think this. So Magic's freezed out. So one of the reasons we picked this sequence, I think it's an interesting sequence to look at, is because you do have the possibility of being able to see all four favorites go down. I think that's really how you can hit these monster pick fours. It's one of the reasons we picked this over the Del Mar sequence. So if you do look at all four of these races, you've got vulnerable favorites, and you can kind of decide. I'm carrying you. You can kind of decide which route you want to take here. But I do think it's important. If you can beat Swiss Skydiver and beat the other three favorites, you're going to be able to get a monster payout home. And that's one of the reasons why, like, look, Maxwell Esquire could totally win this race. But breaking from the rail in a turf sprint, when you want to be close to the lead, or when you're going to be closing, means that Rosario's got to find a trip. And man, did he find a trip on the first time starter of the 3-horse. I think it was the 7th race today. Go back and watch him absolutely explode through the inside. But you need to get that perfect trip to be able to deep close in these turf sprint races. And so, again, this is another favorite I think is vulnerable. So hopefully we can get a couple of these favorites out of the money and get some prices home and blow it up toward the last leg.
Sorry about that. I think our internet connection crashed for a little bit, but I'm happy to see that even though I was hosting this thing, you were able to keep going because I thought, oh, great, like this whole thing just destroyed. So I appreciate you carrying me on that one.
Yeah, I like to talk about horses. So as long as I checked to see if we were live, went over to Twitter, we were, so just kept it rolling. You know, what
Perfect.
can you do?
Perfect. All right. Well, we'll hurry up and get through this then before my internet crashes again. We'll go to the fourth and final leg of the late pick four sequence at Saratoga on Saturday, August 15th. Field of 12 New York bred maidens, 3 and up, plus 2 also eligibles, plus 2 main track only entries, in for a $40,000 tag, going a mile on the inner turf course. Favoritism is on the number 4 Bricko at 5-2. Where are you going on top here?
I'm going to get a little nutty this race. I don't know if you actually looked through what horses I used, but I went on a couple limbs here. So on top, I'm going to go with the 6-horse Michael's Bad Boy. Not just because it has an incredible name, because I like the steps forward this horse has taken the last 2 starts on turf. It beat High Tone two races ago, and it beat one other horse in here that I was interested in using. So because of that, I think Michael's Bad Boy kind of covers a couple horses for me. I'm not using the 9 High Tone because of Michael's Bad Boy beat it. The last 2 races, actually, Michael's Bad Boy beat it. And so for me, that kind of covers up a horse that I don't need to waste a bullet on. And that for me was a big point here because I'm going to take some stabs. I'm going to have 5 deep, and I'm going to play some prices in this spot. And then my second must-use horse is just one of those. The 3 Brickyard, I think, is super interesting here. And we're going for a 0% barn, but we get Santana Jr. up, which I really like that pickup. Again, we're switching from Cardenas, a bug jock, over to a more veteran jock, second off the layoff, second out as a 3-year-old. This is a long layoff. This horse has only run at Saratoga and ran once in 2019, once in 2020. The stretch out shouldn't be any issue here for Take Charge Indy. It should actually really like the distance. In that last race, if you watch it, never really got asked, was able to make a little bit of a move down the stretch, got bumped early at the start. I mean, there's a bunch of reasons why this could kind of get weird, and the 3 could just blow this up. Horse won't get betted one bit. And I think is going to sit a nice trip and shouldn't have any issue with the mile. So I'm going to try and get a price home in the 3 Brickyard here in the last. I'm going to use the 6 and the 3 as must uses. But I mean, in all honesty, I'm going 5 deep because this is a little bit of a head scratcher for me. So I would not go too deep in this spot.
Yeah, I was trying to see how deep I could go here as well. I used the 6. Michael's Bad Boy was my top choice. I thought he and the 4 Bricko were must uses for me. I know the 4 major ticket was a little bit lower, but Michael's Bad Boy, the nice progression that we've seen here, even though he got third last time out after finishing second and almost winning, by Noble Mission should absolutely handle the turf mile. So no issues there. The 3 I was back and forth on. I ultimately didn't go with, but you're getting a great price in a horse that's second off of layoff for a small barn that attracted a big name jockey. So those are all angles that you especially love. So I'm not going to knock you for it. A third horse that I used is going to be the 1 Perfect Banker, who you also used. 20 to 1. I couldn't believe that when I got done handicapping and I went through to write the morning lines down, I saw 20 to 1, and I went and looked a couple more times going, what am I seeing that nobody else is? Buyer speed figures, this horse has got a lot of room to improve. This horse has never tried routing. The 2 times on turf was 9th and 10th. But we're taking a huge drop from the maiden special weight to the maiden claiming ranks. Central Banker is a really talented sire in New York. Yep. I wouldn't want to go much farther than a mile with this horse, but I think the mile is great. Getting Kendrick Carmouche tells me that, especially with the rail draw, there's one thing this horse is doing, and that's going. And I think that there's not a ton of pace in here. And when you get to these lower level claimers, we talk about a lot, they don't always love to pass each other. I think Perfect Banker could sneakily get out there on a loose lead and really take them home, especially on this on the inner turf course where the turns are even tighter than they are on the outer one. So I think Perfect Banker at 20-1. If we beat the two favorites in the first two legs and we get a 20-1 home in the last one, this thing is going to pay stacks. So tell me why you like Perfect Banker.
I mean, you hit the nail on the head here. Look, inside speed on the inner turf at Saratoga's is a thing. The inner turf is playing much better to speed than the outer turf is, than the Mellon course. So the inner turf to me is where you want to look for speed. Like you said, Carmouche inside draw, you only have one option here. Send that puppy. And so we always talk about this at Gulfstream, and we always talk about this on turf races. I always say I want the horse on the lead turning for home. I am confident the one horse will be on the lead turning for home. At 20-1, you got to put them on tickets at that point, especially like you said in this maiden 40 where they can get a little stumbly toward the end, and you don't always have these horses flying late. You also don't have a ton of like elite speed in here. This horse is coming out of 5.5 and 6 furlong races where they're winning 21-3, 21-4. This horse essentially ran a 22-second first furlong and a 24 or 45-second half mile two back going 6 furlongs at Belmont. It's not going to need to do that to get the lead, and there's really no option but to send. Now you do have other speed in here. Mommy's Jewel, who was on the lead last time, went 23-2 and 48. But man, that's 2 seconds faster, 3 seconds faster than the one's able to do on the inside.
Do you also trust Rosario to once again send this horse? Like Rosario does not like to send horses unless he absolutely has to, like Phoenician Harbor. So that was a big reason why I was against Mommy's Jewel. Yeah,
I don't trust the Rosario to send at all, to be honest, because the horse kind of inherited the lead in that spot. If you watch that race, breaking out of the 12-hole at Saratoga, you've got to figure out how to get inside. And, this was first time blinkers for this horse, which also meant it was going to show a little bit more speed. And Rosario, has two choices: either take it way back or send out and see how you can make your trip. Well, the horse has a length lead into the first turn, is essentially in hand the entire race. Why wouldn't you be up front, right? But in this case, I don't see the horse being a length lead. And I don't see him rushing out of the gate in the same way that he did the 8 because of the post position draw. So being on the outside and then moving into the 8, I think is something where you're going to see a little less speed from this horse. So I think you might end up with a little bit of a loose leader as the one. And there is a couple horses going to be right behind it, but none of them really like to pass horses when they're right behind it. I mean, you look at a horse like, even High Tone or Michael's Bab, or High Tone, who's going to sit in second or third, but doesn't ever pass anyone when he's sitting in second or third. Makes me kind of feel like this horse could get brave on the front. And if you can at 20-1, that's we'll take that all day.
Yeah, that's a great one. You used two other ones. I'm sorry. There's only one left we haven't talked about. Talk about the 12 horse.
Yeah,
Sid Finch here.
I used the 4 Brico because you have to, in my mind. Kind of logical fit, and it also covers up Mommy's Jewel, who I didn't want to use and was allowed me to use another price. And for that price, I'm going to go all the way outside to the 12 horse, Sid Finch. Look, Jord Weaver is one of the best trainers historically at Saratoga on the turf from an ROI perspective. He's having a shitty meet. That's fine. I get that. But again, he's got
Chad Brown.
Yeah, so is Chad Brown.
It goes around.
Yeah, exactly. And this horse, Weaver's 25% for the year still, even at only 6% at Saratoga. He's got 8 horses in the money with only 1 win out of 17 starts. So he's still over 50% in the money at Saratoga, which is pretty damn good for a barn like his. This horse debuted on turf, ran well for Weaver, was taken away from him, didn't run on turf again until it got back into the Weaver barn in September of 2014. Horse ran okay in that race, ran okay in the next race, comes back off the layoff, doesn't run well. Now we're getting second start off the layoff, which is something that I like personally, especially when you're going off a year layoff. Weaver's not wonderful at it. He's only 10%, but I'm getting 12-1 on this horse who's going to, look, the 12 post position doesn't matter for this horse because he's going to take back and run once. So if we do get some type of pace setup that materializes, because we've talked about 3 or 4 that could be on the lead, I don't expect it to be crazy hot. I think that you're going to be able to get a decent trip here for the 12 horse Sid Finch. And I also like the switch from Davis to Gaffleone. I think Gaffleone fits this horse a little bit better. I like Gaffleone a little more as a turf rider. And I think that he's a little bit better from off the pace as well. And I like the 12-1 price. I mean, if I'm finding reasons to fade horses like the 8 horse and like the 8 horse Mommy's Jewel and like the 9 horse High Tone, I want to do it to find horses that are 20-1 and 12-1. And that's what I'm doing here. I'm not including 2 horses I hope I have covered because I'm playing the 4 and the 6, and I'm going to use the 1 and the 12 as the bullets instead, so I can try and really blow this thing up.
My one knock on Sid Finch, it's not that he's only hit the board once in 13 starts. It's that this horse was at Finger Lakes 4 different times and couldn't win. And granted, there's no turf course at Finger Lakes, but
bingo.
That's like saying that you're going to pick a horse to win a stakes race at Santa Anita when they couldn't even, win a nighttime thoroughbred race at Los Al. Like, you've really got to stretch for that one for a while. That's a diss on the Los Al nighttime service. I'm sorry. Finger Lakes is trash is what I'm trying to say. I don't usually like, if horses can't win there, I don't usually like to play them out of it. But you make good points, and it is George Weaver.
It wasn't in the Weaver barn when all the Finger Lakes and the
That's
Presque Isle Downs split races were not in a barn that I highly respect.
That way. Great point. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So with Biancone and with Weaver, this horse has consistently run 60s buyers. If this horse gets back to a 60 buyer at 12-1, it fits. So yeah, let's take a swing.
The last horse I'm going to use, I did use the 9 High Tone. I know this horse hasn't finished ahead of Michael's Bad Boy in the last 2 starts. I'm hoping that Irad Ortiz Jr. aboard for the second time kind of figured out in that last race, maybe going forward that close to the lead isn't what this horse wanted. This horse hasn't really looked any better when he was trying to take back, but he also didn't have Irad Ortiz Jr. aboard when he was taking back. Calumet Farm paid $40,000 for him. They don't usually buy males at the auction, so I like that they're willing to risk him for what they paid for him. But this is, for me, as much a play on it being Mike Maker and it being Irad that I have to use. I'm hoping that 92 floats up. It probably won't because of those connections, and I fully understand why you would want to pass on him, especially if you like Michael's Bad Boy like you and I do.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's just I had the prices are more intriguing to me than this horse. I'll let this horse beat me at what's going to be a bet down number since it's Maker and it's Ortiz. I would rather have the 12 or the 1 involved. And I'm surprised you didn't go with your boy Chad Summers, 10 horse here. First off the claim, maiden special weight down to maiden claiming after talking to him for 20 minutes today. I figured you at least ask for a little tip. That's
what started the call.
Oh, you did call him about this.
Well, Chad actually called. I texted Chad. He called me because he was on his way to Saratoga, and I think he was bored in the car, so we talked for a while. I won't repeat exactly what Chad said. I will just say the fact that I talked to Chad for 20 minutes and it was specifically started with this horse, and I'm not using him, should tell you all that you need to know about Freedom and Whiskey. And Dennis, I'm talking to you, buddy, because I saw you post that that he's your top pick here. How about this? I'll point out one thing Chad did. Look at his workouts. Since Chad got him in the barn, 2 workouts at Belmont, he couldn't break 51 seconds. I couldn't break 51 seconds. I'm just saying, there's a very good reason why I'm not using him after talking to Chad. We'll leave it at that.
So I should retract my claim I put in?
Maybe. All right, that's going to wrap things up. We'll go ahead and give out our tickets on the show one last time. And hey, if you're watching live or on the replay, look right down below. You got our tickets right there. I'll go ahead and start things off. I'm going 256 with 25 with 1245 with 1469. That's a $48 ticket. Mr. Samich, you must have had a great time golfing because you went pretty deep in the pockets for this one.
I did. I'm trying to get a big number home here. So I'm going to play a 50-cent ticket. And I'm going to spread. I'm going to go 2, 3, 4, 6 with 256 with 248 with 1, 3, 4, 6, 12 for $90 right before it disappeared on me on the scroll. So yeah, I think that this is one of those where, a lot of times I say I'll play a $5 ticket or a $2 ticket or I'll spread here or there. I think this is one where you could beat all 4 favorites. And if you're in a race, if you're playing a pick 4, you can beat all 4 favorites. Sometimes that 50-cent caveman ticket is the way to go because you want to use all of your budget on one ticket versus splitting your budget into 2 separate tickets. And I believe this sequence could produce that. Now, that being said, yeah, we could chalk out and lose money here, but I think we got some vulnerable favorites, and one of them is going to be 2 to 5. And if we had a guide, I would put Swiss Skydiver on top. She's the most likely winner, but she's not an 80% chance to win, which is what she would need to be for the price and the number of singles that she will be in this pick 4. So I'm willing to take a swing against.
I want to thank everybody who joined us live to watch this. If you're watching live, you've got about a half-hour break. You can go get a snack, get something to eat, take a bathroom break, do what you got to do. Come right back here because at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, the Racing Dudes will be streaming their episode of Blinkers Off, and they'll have a lot more to talk about beyond just what Mike and I covered here at Saratoga, though you will get to hear them laud all over. I'm going to tell you right now, they're both going to pick Decorated Invader. And I'd be very surprised if they don't both pick Swiss Skydiver on top in those spots, because again, they're very talented horses. I'm not knocking them for picking chalk, but they're also not trying to build a case against like we are.
I decided to move my camera angle here because I figured there'd be enough chalk on this feed today. So, I just wanted to make the adjustment there. In all seriousness, you're right. They're the horses to beat. We're just going to try and beat them. Let's have a little fun.
Because what's the fun if you and I come on here and go, we're going to go single, and then we're going to give you a $12 ticket. That's not what you come to us for. No, we're looking for the long shots. We're looking for the live ones, man. And it's going to be a fun weekend too. Saratoga and Del Mar both have two great cards on Friday and Saturday. If you are interested in tournaments, check out horse tourneys this weekend. There is a $400,000 event that's going down. It's called the Spa and Surf. Sean Alvarez and I both have 2 entries in that, so we'll be trying to take that down for the racing dudes. So that's going to be a big tournament, which is every race is mandatory for both days. It's live picks. So it's going to be a 40 race tournament, all mandatory, all live. So you can pick right before the races go off. So it'll be a fun one to follow, and a pretty stressful Saturday afternoon if we're turning for home and we're still somewhere near the money. It's going to be over $100,000 to the winner. I could imagine, like in my past life, I would just be like chain smoking. It's like Saratoga Slim. There's this famous story at the Del Mar Breeders' Cup that before Gun Runners win in the Classic, he was up on the terrace just chain smoking because he was so nervous. I think that would. I mean, this is like a 2-pack day, is what this sounds like.
Let me tell you, man, the live tournaments, they're a little bit of the mind, because like, you get close to the end and you're like, oh, do I pick this horse? Do I take this horse? And I mean, you saw me at NHC, where it's all about, like, I try and make good decisions, just make good decisions, and whatever happens. But man, you want to switch your pick. Should you switch your pick? Should you not switch your pick? I mean, it messes with your head, and especially when it's that much money on the line. So hopefully we just have both entries in striking position going into Saturday. That's really the goal, and figuring out where the bombs can come in from a race-to-race perspective. And yeah, we'll see what we can make happen. So I've already covered all 4 cards. I think Salma Bombs are probably going to be at Del Mar on Wednesday and Saratoga on Saturday.
You mean Friday?
I'm sorry, yeah, Del Mar on Friday, Saratoga on Saturday.
Machine, go to yesterday.
Yeah. I put them up free for yesterday and just missed the late pick 5 and the pick 4. It's been a lot of 3 for 4s and 4 for 5s, man. It's been brutal. But anyway, yeah, we'll be going to Del Mar on Friday, Saratoga on Saturday, and then Sunday we'll figure out where we're going to head. But it should be a fun weekend of racing, and excited to see. We're halfway through the Saratoga meet now, already halfway home. Pretty crazy.
One last thing before we get off real quick. We didn't get a chance to talk about Tiz the Law, and I wanted to save it for the end. Woo! Doesn't he look good?
I'm just going to say this now. This horse can win the Triple Crown and the Breeders' Cup and the Travers. I think that is more impressive than what American Fair was able to do.
I think it would be hard, especially the way in which he had to do it was such a compact. He didn't have the whole summer leading to the Breeders' Cup. It was Travers, Derby, Preakness, Classic, no breaks. Mile and a quarter, mile and a quarter, mile and a quarter, mile and 3/16, mile and a quarter. It's just like, yeah, man, that is tough. And it's not like there aren't decent horses running up against him. I mean, he just. Remember how scared we were about Uncle Chuck? How scared I was that he was going to win and I was going to have to eat crow because we lost the fantasy league because I wouldn't let us claim him.
Yeah, well, it was good for magic. No, like here's the thing though. Uncle Chuck was the only other horse you should use in that race. We knew Tiz the Law was better than everybody else. We just didn't know if Uncle Chuck was better than everyone else. We found out pretty quickly he's not. He's not better than everyone else. Though he still hasn't changed leads. So we need to work on that, Bob. Come on, buddy. So yeah, Tiz the Law looked like a beast. I feel bad for the town of Saratoga and for the stable. I mean, to have that hometown hero win, that Travers would have been electric to be at. I mean, the 50,000 crowd is capped at the Travers now, so we definitely would have had the full crowd. But man, to be there turning for home and to have that it's Saratoga, right? Am I saying that right?
Saratoga, yeah.
Yeah, Saratoga Stables is a partnership that's out of Saratoga and I know Aaron mentioned this on the Monday show. I listened to both episodes, by the way. Good job by you, Magic.
I wondered.
I'm a faithful listener.
Jared.
They wanted that race more than they want the Derby. Yep. Then they want the Breeders' Cup. Then we talked about this before. Certain groups, certain people have, like Chad Brown has said, Travers is the most important race for him to win. That is the one race he wants to win over every other race.
He's a native. Yep.
And so it's special when you're up there in New York and that you have all these traditions that build up year over year, and you see this race and the superstars that have won this race and how important it is to that town, and to be able to win the race and then the next day you go back and your silks are on that canoe. man, that would have been a cool thing for all of them and all of New York to be able to see. So it's a bummer that this happened in a year when the quarantine happened, or whatever it is, the social distancing happened.
Yeah.
But still, the fact that it happened, the fact that canoe on July 15th next year will be painted in those colors and be able to go and see it is pretty incredible. So congratulations to Saratoga Stables. And I cannot imagine how that felt just at the watch party, let alone the opportunity to be there. So awesome stuff. Glad he won. He's going to romp in the Derby. He's going to romp in the Preakness. I have a feeling he's going to romp in the Classic.
I will say, I didn't say this in the live stream. I meant to, but I was a little too amped up. He has a 20% chance of losing the Derby, and that's if he draws like the inside 5 posts. If he draws the rail, hey, maybe he's the one that overcomes the rail. Maybe he's just that good that Tiz the Law wins the Derby from the rail.
Look, he could go 5 wide on both turns and win. And I think that's what they're going to tell Manny to do. Just don't let the horse get caught on the inside. Just go as wide as you need. Yep. You have we've talked about it on the show before. When you have the best horse, just go wide. Don't get in any trouble. Because, he was, 5 lengths, 6 lengths better than that field without trying? He could have broken Arrogate's record if he actually tries to run the last half mile, because he pretty much was never asked. The epic move when Franco looks under his shoulder with the whip up, it's like, oh, nope, just
never mind.
Put that one away. It was pretty awesome to see him run like that and to see a horse that's an absolute superstar. I know that Jared and Aaron are going to bang on this NTRA poll, so I'm going to leave it alone. But I think I said it the last time I was on the show. Tiz the Law is the best horse in America, 3-year-old and up. I think we can pretty much say that if you don't have that in your top 10, you need to start watching horse racing again, because you kind of whiffed on that one, buddy.
Yeah. So that's a great segue. Stay tuned, because at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, the Racing Dudes will be doing Blinkers Off. Jared has an epic rant in store because 12 people that vote in the NTRA top 10 thoroughbred poll. It's not that they didn't vote him number 1. They didn't vote him in the top 10. And I did some research about who some of those people were, because we honestly we'd never heard of them. So hopefully I gave Jared a little more fuel, a little more ammo to go after them. So make sure you stay tuned for that. You can follow them on Twitter at racing_dudes. I am at Curtis Keller. He is at SummerBomb18, number 8. Thank you as always for joining us. Until next time, it's been another episode of the Magic Mike Show. I'm Magic.
And I'm Mike.
We will see you next time.
The Magic Mike Show, where you hear the experts speak. The Magic Mike Show. Tune into the show every week. The Magic Mike Show. You can trust the show is the bomb, because it's being brought to you by RacingDudes.com.